So, good morning. Here we are in the final Sunday of January, entering this year of service that sings. And we're looking at how we might be able to do that individually and then also as community members. And last week I offered this prayer to you and I put it in the chat from Dr. Martin Luther King, which says, "Use me, God. Show me how to take who I am, what I want to be, and what I can do, and use it for a purpose greater than myself." That man knew about service that sang. And that prayer sort of, it feels like I'm humbled by its clarity, by its conviction, by its simplicity, and by its selflessness. This prayer of just use me. And it reminds me of the petition that we do every day with the Course of Miracles, which is, God, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say? And to whom? Again, it's so clear, so succinct, so simple, so selfless, so humbling. And this also reminds me of a song that we used to sing in church. Lou, you probably remember this from Agape, called Use Me. And it goes, "Use me, oh God, I stand for you. And here I'll abide as you show me all that I must do. Show me all that I must do." Every time I heard that song in church, it just sort of settled me, right? It was kind of peaceful to know that there was a guide that had a gentle plan. And I want to activate in us this year that kind of conviction that fuels that vision caster, much like Martin Luther King was fueled by that conviction. When we go to God for our marching orders, that we might go with a little bit of fire and conviction, knowing that she is so benevolent, that she is kind, that she is clear, that she provides. And I'm so happy that this year, this theme, 2024 service that sings, because in the part of my own spiritual journey, and I've shared this story before, so I'm going to give you the cliff notes, but there was a point in my own spiritual journey where I was on a hill in Yugoslavia and I went to see the Blessed Mother, and I was 21, as lost could be. I was searching for my mom. I was searching for my mom physically, mentally, spiritually. I was searching for myself. I was under the night skies of these stars, and now I was just sort of laid open spiritually, and like I said, just lost. Long story short, I was invited to ask a question, and my question was, "Does the Blessed Mother ever laugh? And if so, what makes her happy?" And I didn't really get an answer from the direction that I asked the question, but there was this old woman sitting next to me, and she looked up at me, and I thought, man, I'm going to get it now. God, I'm asking all the sacrilegious questions again. And instead, she looked up at me and she said, "Good question, honey. Good question, honey." And without my knowing it, without my knowing the full extent of that initiation, that became my part of my guide, that I could be fearless enough to ask good questions. And I've shared before, the next question that came up on that hill from someone else was, "Does the Blessed Mother suggest any books?" And I thought that was the dumbest question ever. But I learned right away in that moment, like, if I was going to ask brave, good questions, I would have to make some space for other people to ask their own brave and good questions. And that maybe there are no bad questions. So, and the answer to that question that the Blessed Mother started to explain through these children who were seeing apparitions of her, that her son was writing these books with these therapists in New York City at Columbia College, and that one of the books was called A Song of Prayer, a song of prayer. And here we are in the year of song. And that's why I love this theme, because it feels like these two things are so like first cousins. Then it's the reason I love this theme and the story is because it reminds me that everything is provided. Everything I need to play out my role in God's plan is provided for me. Everything I need for my spiritual evolution, everything you need for your spiritual evolution is provided. You see, when I went back to New York to go and find that book, I couldn't find it. I didn't have the consciousness to find it, even if I had found it. But when I was ready to fully play my part, in God's plan for me, that book was pressed to my palms in my home, delivered to me by a woman I did not know, who I would never meet again. That's how God works. And it was on the first day that I decided to entertain a group of students into my home to study A Course in Miracles, a book that I had no real understanding of. So, God will take you out where the buses don't run and then give you everything you need. Everything is gently planned. God delivers you everything you need when you need it. So there is a plan. And, we get to tap into that plan by asking, God, use me. What would you have me do with this one precious, beautiful life? About a week ago, we engaged in a process called a visioning session, which is also from Reverend Beckwith from Agape. And we engaged in it with the new president of our board, Jeannie Laporte, and the vice president, America, Beltran Castagnola, and our board members, Bella Gordon and Mari Di Alessio, and myself, in hopes of seeing how we might thread this theme through our year and how we might tread this invitation of service that sings. And we looked at our logo and the solo tree and how good that logo is and how much we love it. And then there was this invitation about growing other trees and maybe even an orchard to support other spaces and places. And we were inspired to imagine what it would look like to host in-person gatherings in other necks of the woods, maybe where you live. Because this had been a community request that we get pretty often. Do you have in-person gatherings? Do you have in-person gatherings by me? How can I hang out with other like-minded people? And since we've been on Zoom, it's kind of a question that has been stymied, because we don't know how to do that. And so this was the vision this year. So we heard that request and we heard, people ask us for that. And we heard that Speakeasy was an important community for people and that it was this sort of out of the box, as Mia was saying, you can bring your own Danish, where many people have found their friends and found their lovers. And in May, I'm going to facilitate a wedding for a couple that met each other at Speakeasy. And it's just kind of cool. And more than finding their friends and lovers, they found their voices. They found their own spiritual authority. And this is a place where we study A Course in Miracles, where we honor the Divine Mother and assist individuals in finding their own internal compass. So the invitation was to help host these, small groups, these gatherings where we could connect and break bread and gulp down coffee and sing and maybe even teach the world to sing. And that was the vision. And many of us who are from 12-step communities didn't really shirk that idea because we've started many meetings and have gone to many, and it's really not that hard. And it was a vision to empower people to be extensions of love and to share what has been given us in our local communities. But it was all inspired by singing, which I thought to be very interesting. So if you think singing is something weird, as sometimes people do, and you think, oh, I can't sing, the idea was like, don't worry about it, because the vision was big enough to include all of the hummers and all of the horn players, and any way that you feel you are making a joyful noise. Maybe you write songs, or maybe you just want to learn the words to your favorite song. And is this a spiritual practice? You bet your French horn it is. Bella Gordon said that in the vision meeting, she got this idea of Speakeasy the musical. Imagine singing your prayers, putting prayers to song, teaching and sharing these songs to each other. And not just people in our community, but anyone who's under your nose. Significant research has been done on the positive effects of singing and how it adds so much to our conversations and our rituals and our happiness in our lives. But I don't have to sell you on the science, because I know you know this by heart. I know you know this by heart, Lou. I know you know this by heart, Lynn. I know when you sang this morning that you were like, oh, yeah. So we're calling each of us to, take the reins in that leadership, all the songbirds, all the mavens and hostesses with the mostesses and the helpers who are ready to create community or host gatherings. These gatherings don't need even to be grand, wherever two or more are gathered, there you have your chest game, that's holy ground. And these gatherings are about getting into harmony with each other and connecting and creating. And the aim is to remember how we belong to each other. Remember the magic of the front stoop and the aim to have fun and the activity to, to activate our individual voice visibilities and values and to move into service, to use that as a platform to move into service, whatever that means to you. And it could be going out to clean a park in your neighborhood, or bringing songs to an adult community living, or just making each other a meal. This is in this very lonely, busy, disconnected, isolated world, like hosting a humble potluck. That could be the greatest service of all. So, and we're going to commit to helping you by doing that, by hosting virtual meetings for those hosts and for those gatherers to help them, to get a little life coaching around what it means to like make space for other people. Because sometimes when you make space for other people, you kind of invite in big classrooms for yourself. But you'll get help around that, a place to unravel, if you meet up with, lessons or classrooms, and I will be there to help you with that life coaching. And word on the street is I'm a pretty good life coach, but don't take my word for it. Come. Each gathering will surely have its own style. It may be a sing along, or it may be you and a group of friends learning to play the ukulele. It could be a monthly karaoke night or a jam session. It could be as easy as sitting around a fire, sharing a song or a story, but making it intentional. Whatever your group takes, whatever form it takes, we can guarantee two things: that you will be supported and that it will add great meaning to your life and the lives of others. This is the church, as somebody was saying to me on the earlier call, that he was in a church where they broke up into small groups, and his minister said to him, everybody get into your group in this big room and see who's actually your church. Look at them. They're your church. I'm not your church. My job is to get me out of business because you're the church. This is where the miracles happen. I promise you. Service that sings will infuse your life with more music and more musing. It'll create connections, allow the medicine of music and sound and stories to elevate your mundane into miraculous, whether it's whistling a happy tune or creating a choir or a chanting circle. That's what it's all about. Beth Gordon put it this way. She said, don't underestimate the power of this practice. It can be life-changing in the very best way. We become the human instrument. I love this. She said, we become the human instrument, like the vibration of a drum when struck. We vibrate with the sound of a song moving through us and vibrating out into the world. And she knows what she's talking about, because our friendship actually began in one such circle that I called naked singing, where we would gather with each other and we would just sing. And then we would give each other feedback, but not on what it sounded like, but what it felt like in our hearts, how we knew this by heart and what we knew by heart in regards to the singing. It was a really powerful little group. So together we can embody the request of St. Francis that says, Lord, make me an instrument of your love. So if you want to learn more about that we're going to have the link in, and you can click it and you can join us and we can co-create this together. Creating and collaborating in community is such a powerful, beautiful gift to give yourself. Having a vision and a project, having it be unified. When a married couple makes each other their sole focus, that relationship is bound to die and wither on the vine. There needs to be something between us, as Martin Luther King said, like a project, something more purposeful, greater than ourselves. And I know that with Will in my own relationship, like the most purposeful, powerful times of our relationship was when we weren't gazing googly-eyed at each other, which is really easy to do. If you've seen my husband, he's very easy on the eyes, but rather when we're looking out at the horizon and asking the question, like, how are we going to make the world a better place to live? And whether that answer was like, we're just going to make a safe home for our kids, we're going to feed healthy food to our children, or, I supported him when he was making his movie, or we ran triathlons for charity, or, we took on projects that focused our energy towards something other than ourselves. There's something so wonderful about collaborating, conscious collaborating, especially when the vision is big enough for us to all step into it together, especially when it feels a little bit beyond the possible. We're pushed by pain or pulled by vision, and we want to be pulled by vision. Here's a few quotes that you might like. One by Milo Monroe says, when you believe in your dreams and your vision, when it will begin to attract its own resources. No one was born to fail. Everyone is supplied. Helen Keller said, it's a terrible thing to see and have no vision. And Vince McMahon says, you need to surround yourself with quality human beings that are intelligent and have a vision. The final one is Bill Gates. He said, Microsoft was founded with a vision of a computer on every desk and in every home. And we never wavered from that vision. Having a vision tethers you towards something bigger than yourself. So you can see how important it is to have. And we talked about this during the holiday season when we covered those fourfold ways from Angeles Arian, who's talked about the warrior and the teacher and the healer and the vision caster. You are the vision caster in your own life. The vision caster has to answer the question, what is my soul calling me to do? A Course in Miracles, which is a book that we use, it doesn't coax us. It instead reminds us by helping us to listen into that soul calling. What are we here to do? How we're not here to change the world. We're here to change our mind so that we can be helpful in the world. And it reminds us that we carry within us all that we need. And if it's not there, it will be given, because there is no such thing as scarcity. And the awareness will hopefully put, scarcity to bed and invite instead impossibility when we're certain of our outcome. When we're certain of our outcome, we can trade in struggle for being a happy learner. The Holy Spirit says that it needs happy learners in whom his mission can be happily accomplished. You who are steadfastly devoted to misery, it says in the book, must first recognize that you're miserable and not happy. And so, I mean, that's the block that we get to look at, like, damn, I'm miserable in this particular section of my life, so that I can remove the blocks. So we can look at the blocks so our visions can fly instead of fumble. If we don't clear out the runway, we'll have visions that just sort of fumble over themselves. We got to work on the consciousness. You might think, how can I not recognize that I'm miserable? Well, these things can be subtle. And they can get co-signed by a world that struggles, and a world full of blocks, and a world that co-signs getting stuck. And so we just start claiming that about ourselves, and it gets co-signed, and you fall asleep and you can't see the forest for the trees. And the miserable world in this space, misery shared seems like true connection. It's not connection. And then happiness feels something like danger. So we get these things upside down. So this is good for the ego to be miserable, because it is very unlikely that a miserable soul will sing and then even forget about service. A miserable soul will never be in service. The victim mentality is helpless, hopeless, and harmful. We don't like to admit that it's harmful, but it's absolutely harmful because it prevents us from living into our full potential. So to capture the highest vision, we must be willing to question our allegiance to these doubts and these dark places and this despair, and begin to hand over all those illusions to the Holy Spirit to reinterpret it, which, we do here. We need to let go of all that we've been told and sold and listen for that river beneath the river, that higher calling. We need to come to listen to the awareness of that self. And before we find that higher vision or our soul song, we need to continue to really get to know ourselves and know ourselves by heart. So have you done this? Have you really spent time with yourselves? Have you gone off to the forest? Have you really let your soul let you know, listen to your heart, your guidance, your nudges, your invitations? The Latin word for vocar, it means to call. Vocar, to call, which means which where we get the word vocation. Our vocation is our calling. But the thing about our vocation is we've sort of polluted the idea of this calling by how we make money. That sometimes can be true and sometimes does not necessarily mean to be like is true. Our calling isn't, it will bring us things that are way more valuable than money if we're in alignment with our true calling. Your calling is how you connect with the world. This is where you are the answer to the call for love. This is where you are in a call and response with the world. You're listening and you're responding. To fully hear that call, we must get still. And you've heard about getting still during the time when the veils are thin. And right now, I think we're in the middle of a full moon, which I say is a very great time to like listen up. But, or when people close to you die, the veil gets thin. And at certain times of the year or certain experiences can usher in a time of a thin veil, so the listening is even more effective. But you don't have to wait for those moments. You can cultivate thin veils. All you need to do is to find stillness, like just really work on your stillness, to get really, really still. And listen, this is the pot asking the kettle to do things that it's not always able to do. But I too work on this stillness. It does not come easy for me. But the stillness that I have found, I know you have too, that it is just the birthplace of all that is mysterious and wonderful. It's this bleak and brilliant space of emptiness that feels so full, so full that it just like washes over you and rings bells within you that you didn't even know you had the questions for. You get those answers. And Franz Kafka says it like this. He says, you don't need to leave your room. He says, remain seated at your table and listen. Don't even listen, just be still. Just be quiet and solitary. The world will freely offer itself unmasked. It has no choice. It will roll in ecstasy at your feet in the same way that book was just placed in my hand. These are the things that you should come to expect. If you practice stillness, all that you need will arrive and remind you that God does for you what you can't always do for yourself. I couldn't have found that book. I tried. Everything is gently planned for you. In the attainment of the real world, Jesus says, we cannot sing redemption song alone. So redemption song means like a song sung that sands of fear, sands of sin, sands of evil, like a song of innocence. We can't sing it alone. We have to sing it with each other. It's a healing song that wakes us up to our innocence, and we sing this song together. And he goes on to say, my task is not complete until I have lifted every voice with mine. His task is to lift our voices in this song. The sound of the song will banish sorrow from the mind of God's Son. I think that's so beautiful. And it ends by saying, give thanks to every part of yourself that you have taught how to remember yourself. Do you remember yourself? Do you remember yourself by heart? Your songs, your heart's calling. Did you forget yourself? If you did, it's not a crime. Most of us forget ourselves all the time. That's why the libraries are filled with hundreds of books designed to help us to remember. But as I said on the morning call, like, you can fill yourself with all the books known to man and still be thirsty, or you can get still and accept one word of God and be satiated for several lives. And as you go to God, you will be less likely to forget yourself. If you read books, you can read books and forget and wake up and forget and wake up and forget. You can tell that you've forgotten yourself by the songs that you sing and the stories that you tell. They will tell you everything. And that's why we need to be impeccable with our words. That is a tough one. If you're thinking of hosting a gathering, get yourself a copy of the Four Agreements. It's the only and greatest leadership book you will ever need. And it covers, this idea of impeccability. Being impeccable is not easy, or everyone would be doing it. But it is everything. It will change everything. If your song contains sorrow, hardship, struggle, feelings of being stuck, you can be sure that this need not be, that you're just calling this in, and you get to heal that. You're here to be light. You're here to be laughter. You're here to be led. You're here to be poetry. You're here to be possibility, no matter what the world is screaming at you. Impeccable means clear of all sin, of all fear, of all evil. If you're not impeccable with your words, you most likely have some healing to do. And listen, who doesn't? So we're here to heal that together, our minds together, our hearts together, through the purification of forgiveness. If you're blocked, then your first act of service is to yourself. You must first free yourself from the fears and the fixations and the special relationships in order to access your soul song. Our forgiveness, or rather our unforgiveness, does not just render us blind, but deaf, and specifically spiritually tone deaf. It's a very sickly, illusionary state. It renders me immature and incompetent, and it leaves us suffering and stagnant and stunted. And this experience is it just is not helpful. So it's simply a call to love, and it will be your first act of a loving service, is this place where you're called to sing a new song, and fully and completely forgive yourself for thinking that something went wrong, and instead be determined to heal that scarcity mindset and move into the awareness that you have, in fact, been so blessed, that you are so blessed. There's no way for you to be of service until you admit and acknowledge this. And as you do that, all things will come to you. So when I was writing this talk, I was thinking about the ways that we tend to block ourselves, because I know that when we look at the blocks with the determination to see things differently, we can, remove those blocks. So I was sitting down to write this talk. And honestly, sometimes when I'm sitting down to write a talk, I can feel like the Holy Spirit has given me some sort of like a weird jigsaw puzzle, but I only have a fist full of pieces, and I'm trying to put together a jigsaw puzzle from a fist full of pieces. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to say here. And I somehow have to figure out, life's riddles from a very confused place, to be completely honest with you. But at this point, I also know that that's just me taking the reins, and I need to let go, actually, because the Holy Spirit always provides. So I put it aside. I put this talk aside. I go for a walk with my friend Jody. We go out into the forest where we always walk, but it's flooded, so we can't go through the forest. So we walk the neighborhood, which we never do. And we walk until we come to this tree. And at the foot of this tree is this big red book. It's almost like mythical. And it's just sitting there propped up in the snow. And it's like calling to me. And I say, I don't know what that is, Jody, but I got to go. I got to go rescue that abandoned book over there. And I walk over and I pick up this book and I look at it, and I won't tell you what the title is because I don't want to ruin it for you first. And I take it home with me. And when I get there, I open it and it folds open to this list. And this list is basically 14 ways that we fuck ourselves, 14 ways that we block our ability to hear our soul song. And here's the thing, to hear your soul song, to have yourself be of service to the world, you have to remove all these blocks and blind spots and biases. You have to work on your consciousness. And we do this through spiritual practice, and we do it through forgiveness and through asking the Holy Spirit to help us so we can find and feel and embrace and heal our blocks. So to live into that calling and embody your vision, we need to be rigorously honest. So I'm going to read this list. I won't read the whole list, but I'm going to read the list. And maybe you can just like write down from a scale from 1 to 5, where are you in regards to these blocks? And if you're going to give yourself a 4, give yourself a 3 because we have blind spots. So underestimate your capacity just so you give the Holy Spirit something to work with. So the first block was we isolate and become fearful and suspicious of people, specifically authority. We isolate and become fearful and suspicious of people, and specifically authority. 2, we become people pleasers and we lose our truth while seeking the approval of others. I got a 5 on that one. We become people pleasers and we lose our truth seeking the approval of others. 3, we're threatened by others' emotions, especially anger or anything that's not pretty, and we take it personally. Sometimes when you read these things, it's like, oh, geez, you're reading my diary? I do not like when you're not happy. 4, all feedback is seen as personal criticism. All feedback is seen as a personal criticism, and it has the ability to level us or demolish us. 5, we engage in addictions and drinking, shopping, scrolling, gossiping, and we connect with others who are also compulsive. 6, we see ourselves as victims. And maybe not in all areas, but is there a place, any spaces? And if there are, and if you see them specifically, write it down. We obsess over our responsibility to others' illnesses so that we don't have to work on our own flaws. 7, we obsess over our responsibility to others' illnesses so that we don't have to work on our own flaws. 8, we feel guilty when we establish boundaries. We feel guilty when we establish boundaries. 9, we don't feel fully alive unless our life is a roller coaster of events. We become bored with peace. We're addicted to the roller coaster. 9, we're addicted to the thrill of something happening. 10, we confuse love and pity, and we love to pity people and rescue them. 11, we stuff our feelings out of fear of feeling pain or anything of discomfort. We just stuff it down. And 12, we judge ourselves harshly. We're really hard on ourselves. So it was interesting to me that this page fell open and gave me this list of blocks, just like the Song of Prayer came to me. This book just came. And as Franz Kafka says, like, just get still. The world will lay itself at your feet. So here's the thing. We create reality based on our combination of our beliefs, which we become aware of, and our blind spots, which we don't see. We possess an inner power and authority that will and does influence the quality of our lives, our health, our relationships, our careers, our outpicturing of our thoughts. And this, we already know this. This is metaphysics 101. We know it from Louis Hay. We know it from Wayne Dyer. We know it from all the gurus that tell us that we rise or fall depending on our own creative thoughts, our patterns, and the power that we have to either claim the truth or make peace with the truth. You know, you're uncomfortable. I'm going to be at peace with that. Or blame the world and make war with it. Hold it off. Try and change it. Try and stuff it. This is the time, the beginning of the year, to take the high road. We want to forgive ourselves and each other for the illusions that block the awareness of love's presence. And will it be worth it to do this work? This is what the Course in Miracles says. It says, can you imagine how beautiful those you forgive will look to you? In no fantasy have you ever seen anything so lovely. Nothing you see here, sleeping or waking, comes near to such loveliness, and nothing will you value like this, nor hold so dear. Nothing that you remember that made your heart sing with joy has ever brought you even a little part of the happiness that this sight will bring. So I think we could say that it's worth it. And if that's not a higher vision, I don't know what is. I'm going to close with this. Deepak Chopra says, a job is how you make money. A career is how you leave your mark. A calling is how you acknowledge a higher vision, whatever that may be. And when you live into that higher vision, you end up being resourced and you end up leaving a mark. The only thing that can stop you from living your most optimal state is you. Do what you need to do to clear the blocks to your greatest good. You can teach the world to sing and do just about anything. Dance upon a wire, join an angel's choir, set the world on fire with your love. Weave your dreams into your hair and toss the dice and take the dare. Don't live your life unlived. You have so much more to give. You could ride the rodeo and kiss beneath the mistletoe and spill out your desires. Let the stars conspire. Set the world on fire with your love. It's done as you believe, so wear your heart upon your sleeve. Be what you came here for, a movie star, a troubadour. You could paint the whole town red, make sure all the kids are fed, and dance up on that wire. Join an angel's choir. Set the world on fire with your love. Welcome to a year of service that sings. That's the word.
Where do we begin from that flood of inspiration and that beautiful storytelling, performance, soul sharing? Well, I of course would love to know what the title of the book is, but I guess we're saving that for another occasion.
Oh, let me get it. Let me get it. I think it was
Okay.
like Adult Children of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Okay.
Hold on.
Okay. Yeah, great. Because I mean, as you went down the list, I went like check, 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 check. You know, is there any of those I haven't done? I think I've done them all, as we all get to do on this journey here.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
great.
It was called Adult Children of Alcoholics Anonymous. I mean, it's like a tomb, and it's dysfunctional families. And God bless our families. God bless our families, but I mean, they might not have functioned at the degree that, but whatever was is perfect. But we get to re-raise ourselves, right? And we get to call in what needs to be most helpful for our maturity. So many of us get stunted and then stay at that state of immaturity, which is very close cousins to victimhood. And I know it because I live there, and it's cloaked in confusion. I don't know how to do this, or I don't know, I'm not ready. And the more we can work on our consciousness, the more we can move into maturity. And man, maturity is hot. Spiritual maturity is hot because you get to the space where it's like yeah, you don't know how to do everything, but there is a power that can support you if you're just simply willing. Like, get out there, put your name in the hat. Like, don't worry about it so much. Like I said, like, I sit down most weeks and I feel like I have a fistful of puzzle pieces, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, like, seriously, like, I still like, I'm not sure if I'm the person for this job. But Marianne Williamson said something one time that I took to heart, and it really helped me, which was, this is yours to do if you're doing it. And I was like, okay, so stop wrestling with what is. Anyway, the book is called Adult Children of Alcoholics.
Yeah, beautiful. I mean, I went through 4 years of 12 steps on my journey of sobriety and recovery, not for alcohol, but for codependence. And to me, that's still the root of a lot of the dysfunction in the world and in my own life, in terms of being authentic. I loved your reference to Don Miguel Ruiz. I get to hear him
Oh
in
no,
person.
oh no, sit, sit,
You
sit.
might want to mute
Oh,
yourself while your dog is sitting.
Hi, Mary. Sure. So yeah, the Four Agreements is a shot of truth from above, which is quite a high bar for us to live. But it's great to have that, along with the course. These are the principles, rather than the personalities of our dysfunctional or come see, come saw clarity. So again, I loved your message about devotion and surrendering, from MLK and the course. That's what I keep returning to. And that's where the miracles and the opening and the healing and the opportunities, as I was saying earlier before we started, that's where they are showing up in my life, which is wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. And the great thing about like the healing that you do, I mean, always the healing is done so you could sit a little closer to your divinity, right? But the healing also, there's so many beautiful byproducts of it. Um, so I won't say you can't be of service if you have so many blocks, but you probably, if you have a lot of blocks, you probably aren't even thinking about being of service. When I first showed up at 12 step and my sponsor was like, hold the door open and greet people, I was like, why? No, I
What's
was
it
like,
include?
yeah, it was like call other people and ask how they're doing. And I'm like, what? I'm not doing that. I have no problem calling you and telling you all my problems, but I'm not going to call other people and ask them what their I'm not. So the level of consciousness, you don't have to worry about it. Like, you will be led to the level of your consciousness to be of service to the degree that is most helpful at this stage of the game. But man, don't ever underestimate yourself, that you could really make great impact if you feel called to do that. And many of us, I think, do feel called to do that, but we kind of get stymied by that list of things we went through. And we kind of, and part of the unstymieing ourselves is the work. And the desire to have great impact is actually the nothingness, but it was the thing that will help us to do the work, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Get out of our own way and just be willing, as you say. And that's where the change really happens, when we don't know and we still need to find an answer. And it's that space between the not knowing and trusting and having faith and believing and giving thanks, that there is an answer, and then responding to the cues. You go for a walk and there's a book with the rest of your talk, ready to go.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. And God does for us what we can't do for ourselves. Like, when it talked about like being obsessed with other people's illnesses, I have some kids who have some stuff. And so one of my kids wanted to try EMDR, rapid eye movement therapy. And I was like, oh yeah, let me go check that out for you. I mean, what am I, the guy who like drinks the soup so you can not die of poison? I'm like, I was like, let me go check that out for you. I want to just see what it's like. And so I go to this therapist and I'm like, I want to try this rapid eye movement. She's like, well, you can't just try it. You have to be in the process. You have to work out some of your stuff. And I was like, huh? And I was like, damn, well, and then I felt embarrassed that like I didn't actually want to do the work. And I'm like, oh my God, God tricked me. I'm in therapy now. And so we're in therapy and we talk about this moment in my life when I'm walking with my mom and we walk by this ballet studio and I'm with all of my siblings because my mom has epilepsy, so she doesn't drive. And I've never saw her have an episode, but she doesn't drive with all of these kids. So she takes us to the store many miles away and we walk home with these grocery bags. And so that's the picture. And we walk by this dance studio and I run up to my mom. I'm like, I need to go there. I felt like I had discovered, fairies. And she was like, no, you can't go there because if you want to go to dance class, then all the girls, 5 older sisters, will want to go to dance class and we can't afford it. And my soul just shut down in that moment. And I made so much meaning of that moment. And I had worked with other therapists on that moment. And the first thing I noticed in taking it to a therapist or to a counselor or life coach was that this was the reason I was giving away so many scholarships. Like it just broke my heart to think anybody couldn't get into the class. So I was willing to prostrate myself so that you could get into the class and I would carry you through the threshold. I would do whatever. And my first coach was like, you can only give out 3 scholarships a year. I almost couldn't stop. I couldn't breathe. And I hated her for telling me that. But that was part of my healing around that story. So, a year goes by and I'm doing more therapy and it's guiding me to go back to that story. And I'm like, no, we already looked at that story. Remember, like, I'm really much better with my money now. And I understand that, like, it's okay to, not have to carry people through the threshold. I was like, well, we're going to go back again. And so we go back to that story. And the new awareness that comes to me is like, Maureen, like, you're still hung up about like not being able to go to dance class. You didn't heal this completely. And yet you could dance anytime you want. And then from that, I like signed up for a dance class with Jody Murphy and we learned these dances together and we're terrible and we pee ourselves laughing, but but it was another level of healing. So I go to this therapist, long story long, I go to this therapist and this is the same story that comes up and I'm like, oh man, you're kidding me. I'm like, I already worked on this. Like, I totally get it. So we get to the story that she wants to work on and we do the zippity zap zoo back and forth with these vibrating things. And I get this awareness that, man, it is so fucking hard to say no to Maureen Muldoon. Like, my mom was just telling me the truth. Like, she had 8 kids. We had like tons of bags. She was like, can we just get the fuck home and not like hang another thing on my overloaded Christmas tree? And I had so much compassion for her that I was like, whoa, like I got to see my mom in such a beautiful way. And the picture no longer became about me not being in dance class, but I had robbed myself and wasn't willing to continue to do so. This relationship with a woman, my mom. And so, I know we've all done a lot of healing work, but what I also know is, if our manifestations are not flying into form, we might still, if books aren't showing up at the root of a tree, like you might still have a few rounds to go with a story or two, and it's okay. It's okay to do that work. In fact, that's self-care. Yeah,
Beautiful.
EMDR is brilliant. We use it with Havening. Yeah, so great. So good. Um, and so, I mean, as we serve, we got to continue to maintain that space of grace because an unhealed healer, man, it's no good, man. You don't want to do any harm. Like I said, the victim is hopeless, helpless, and harmful. And we've
Yeah,
had spiritual teachers who are harmful, and it doesn't need to be that.
yeah. No, that's very deep, hon. That's very powerful. I loved what you said about that still point, the depth of surrender that we are all striving to practice, who've been doing this work for decades.
Yeah.
And yeah, we still need to laugh at ourselves and have a good cry and start over and ask for help and forgive. That was gorgeous too, the chapter, the passage about how beautiful seeing someone that you've forgiven truly can be.
Yeah.
That was absolutely incredible. So
Have you had
powerful.
that experience?
Yes, sure. Yes. And
Yeah.
it's not about them, it's about me,
Yeah,
you know.
I know.
Yeah. I know you do.
I saw my former husband and I like saw him to the point where I just wept. And you're right, it's not about him. I don't think he even knew what was happening in that moment for me. I don't think he knew at all. And it didn't matter. It did not matter. It was all being healed in my mind. And it is true. It will be so beautiful. It will eclipse any, thing that you thought would bring you happiness.
Yes, yes. Can I just say one more thing about that? One of the teachers I listened to, or an interview recently, was with a woman named Regina Meredith, who
Mm-hmm.
some people might know of. Yeah, she's quite a good interviewer about things. And she was chatting with 3 or 4 different channels talking about 2024. And the message from most of them was about ending judgment. And then she brought through a message about ending judgment. And that was, to me, that was the invitation from Spirit. It's so easy to be polarized in our world, and I love America madly, of course, and I'm watching it from a different point of view since I've been over here, and it's just incredible how easily we continue to get triggered by divide and conquer, confusion, judgment, this, that, and the other thing. So I just want to say to a group this conscious, if we can really step into that space of being the peacemakers, as you referred to St. Francis, and Lord, let me be an instrument of thy peace, that I think is such a powerful force in the world right now. So I just want to make
I
that pitch.
agree. I agree. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. Bella?
Hello, good morning. I love this topic. And, you know, you were sharing about how, our friendship uh really ignited with the singing group, the naked singing group. And it actually started with a song right before that. The impetus to do that group was a song that I
Yeah, I
wrote
remember.
for the foundations class as my final project. And I thought singing has like been this thread that has brought so much together. And I will say this, that when I was to do that final project for the class and I got that I was to sing, I had so much resistance.
Yep.
And I finally got over my own resistance, and it
Yeah.
led to so much great good. And I just feel like for anybody here that has any resistance to singing, like miracles and magic are on the other side of it. Like just do it.
Mhm. Yeah, but here's the thing. It's not singing. It's resistance to anything. I have resistance to getting into cold water. I have resistance to like RSVPing for a Facebook event, which by the way, if you come to these events, RSVP so that other people feel like, oh, this is a warm place to come to. I have a resistance to sharing this with people. That resistance is always the ego. It's always the ego. And so if you can work on the resistance in one area, it will affect every area of resistance. Like, when we get people in the cold water at Lake Superior, like it's like I say to people, this is the same resistance that you face every time you walk into an interview, every time you fear putting yourself out there, every time you take the microphone to sing a song, you're going to have that thing. But the more you can move through it, the more you become empowered to like not have that resistance. Resist nothing. Everything is for you. Nothing is against you. So thanks for playing.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that is the thing, to move past our own resistance. But I just felt especially how the singing
Mhm.
brought such a joyful thread through everything. So
Yeah.
that's it. I just wanted to share.
Yeah. Your hair looks really pretty today.
Thank you.
Hello, Mia.
Yeah.
Hey, how's it
I-
going?
Good. She's our St. Bridget. She's the bridge, which is coming up. And Bullock is coming up February 1st, right? Yeah.
Just a few days' time. Yeah, it was your ex-husband story there where your first husband. I'm never sure about the word ex, but anyway, first husband. Um, that just prompted me to share this. So what began as something that I thought was really, it came from this ego place of being about me, sort of relieving me of a burden. This prompt to speak with my ex-husband some time back and to own some shit basically, that had gone down in our marriage. But you know, my ego was telling me the end result was I would feel really good. You know, even though he might feel good too, but I would feel really good. That said, you know, on my way to meet him, my daughter Vicky happened to be with me, my youngest daughter. And I was praying in the car and I was really asking Holy Spirit to be my words, you know, to be on my tongue and give me all the right words. And when I arrived to meet him, what I wanted to own was actually getting pregnant with our daughter, a bit more consciousness than I ever owned before. You know, the fact that there was a knowing in me that there was a possibility of getting pregnant, which I felt would cement our relationship. But as I was speaking it, Holy Spirit said, tell him that you loved him so much you didn't want to lose him.
Oh.
And I was like, So I said it. I said, I loved you so much that the idea of you not being there had me, you know, do some manipulative stuff. And his version of the story was so different to mine. He said, you think I didn't know that? He said, our beautiful daughter, Sophie, would not be here. But he said, the most important part of what you've just told me is that you loved me. Because he said, I've gone my whole life wondering, did she ever really love me since I had left?
Oh.
And so it was one of these just most miraculous conversations. And it's when you hand it over and do truly recognize it's not about me. I don't know what anything is for. I don't know what I'm here. I think I'm here for this reason, but I'm actually here for a completely different reason. And we hugged, like a long hug. Not, I mean, I can hug him when I greet him, but this was a hug. And what was really beautiful was that Vicky had chosen to stay in the car. So she witnessed this entire scene play out as we sat on the bridge, the bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, that thing of I surrender, love, use me is so powerful.
Yeah.
So powerful.
Yeah, and we just love to hear those stories, you know? Like we just love to hear those stories. So thanks for orchestrating that story. Thanks for moving through the resistance around that story, and thanks for sharing that story because as much as Vicky benefits from seeing it, we benefit from seeing it. Like we all benefit from seeing that possibility.
Yeah. And,
Right.
you know, one of the upshots of that story later on was this Christmas going to my ex-mother-in-law and father-in-law's house with the children and Kieran being there and us all sitting together. And they're asking me how Clive is and the beauty of the acknowledgement of, you know, my current marriage, etc., and the ease and the flow. And there wasn't a single little bit of graininess there. You know, it was just a beautiful flow of love in that space.
That's teaching the world to sing.
Hallelujah.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of your beautiful love partner, la la.
Oh,
Song. Thank you, Mia, Maureen. Thanks, everyone. Brilliant.
Welcome.
Over to me then.
Yes,
The
sir.
current husband.
She was warming up by the other ones. They were just dress rehearsals.
Yeah, I know. We're just getting the stuff out of the way. I just had one thing I wanted to say about this theme of singing. I think when we sing, it's like basically when we breathe in, we're breathing in possibility. We're breathing in the universe. We breathe in the possibility of life itself. And when we breathe out kind of creation. We create something then, because it invigorates us, and it creates our universe. It creates it through our hearts and minds, and into a way that is through our soul. And I think when we add our throats to it, we add our action of singing, we add the vibrations of our souls, and that goes back into the universe, and it adds, if we choose, a joyfulness and a sharing and a community. And I think that's the beauty of singing, that it's turning breath into expression. And it doesn't really matter how technically good or whatever bad you are at it, and if you want to use those terms, it's how it feels. It's what you put out on that breath, emotionally and intentionally. So if it carries love, that's all that matters. So with that, I just want to say thanks, Maureen, for your fabulous talks as ever, and thanks for asking me to be on this show. And this is a song called Music Is My Medicine, which is actually one thing you said, but just happened to fit in there. And for me, music has been a medicine in many ways. It's always been somewhere to turn to, but it's also, I think, it applies to singing. Singing is medicine. It is a way of healing yourself through an action. So here it is. Music is my medicine. When I've had enough and I can't go on, and all the rights, oh, they seem so wrong. Oh, I don't give up, no, I don't give in. I just turn that dial and start listening to my song, my favorite song. 'Cause music, it's my medicine. Oh, I take a dose just every day, let it chase my blues away. Hey, hey, hey. When I'm feeling low and I can't get up, and the darkness, so sometimes it fills my cup. Oh, I don't give out, I don't give in, I just lay on back, put my earbuds in, and I'm gone. I'm truly gone. 'Cause music, it's my medicine. Reggae, funk, or rock and roll, country, jazz, or old time soul. It's when the needle drops, all the pain, it stops, and the healing starts to flow. Yes, music, it's my medicine. A dose just every day, let it face my